Welcome into the Early Edge presented by BetMGM NL Futures Edition. I'm Grace Remington, and a reminder before we get started, our AL Futures Edition ran last Friday. You can go back and watch that on the SportsLine YouTube channel or listen to it wherever you get your pods. And you know the drill. Please like this video, subscribe to the SportsLine YouTube channel, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, and go ahead, jump in the chat. Let us know what you're betting on this MLB season. And with that, let's bring in the experts. We got Matt Snyder and Amags today getting us closer to MLB opening day on March 28th. And guys, we will start with our best bets for the NL East. The Atlanta Braves in the midst of a dominant 6-year stretch here, winning the division every year since 2017. So no surprise, they are the heavy favorite here to win at minus 275, with Philly expected to make some noise at plus 325. Matt, kind of hard to pick this one because of the juice here, but how are you playing this division?
Yeah, in terms of who's going to win the division, I actually don't have a play. And I know that sounds really weird to start the show off with no play, but if I look at the minus 275 there on the Braves, I really do pretty confidently feel like the Braves are going to win the division, but not by 14 games like they did last year. I feel like the Phillies are at least close enough to them that the minus 275 is enough to make me want to stay away and maybe wait. Remember, the Braves in 2021 didn't even get over 500 until August. In 2022, they started slow for the first 6 weeks or so. Maybe if they have a slow start, that juice comes down a little bit and it can get a little bit closer to even, and then it will be time to pounce on the Braves. But that's how I'm playing this, at least to start the season in terms of a division winner. I do have a play on a total here, and that's the Marlins. They were a playoff team last year. It was the first time they made the playoffs in a full season since 2003. But I don't like a follow-up effort at all. 78.5 is the number. I'm under that with ease. I think they're going to be low 70s in wins. I think they're going to be really bad. They were incredibly fortunate in one-run games last year, in extra inning games. And their team at this point is mostly predicated on getting wins via the rotation. And Sandy Alcantara is already out for the season due to having Tommy John surgery. They've already had Braxton Garrett and Edward Cabrera with arms barking this spring. Yuri Perez, I still don't know how much of a full season he can throw, what his workload will look like. Maybe it's 150 innings. I just don't trust that rotation to stand up all year, and that's going to be what they need to lean on if they're going to be contenders. So I think that they're going to have a lot of things go wrong this year. And offensively, they were bad last year offensively. I know they added Josh Bell and Jake Berger at the trade deadline, but this past offseason, they lost. Shout out to my man Buckets. They lost Jorge Soler. So there's a lot of things to dislike about the Marlins.
Yeah, I was actually trying to find a reason to back them, but I just can't do it, Matt. So I agree with all your points there. I do have one note on the Braves. I'm not playing them. Again, I don't have a play on this division either, but there is value on the current odds of minus 275 despite its steep price. The current odds imply they have a 73% chance of winning the division. I looked at 5 different projection models, including Fangraphs. They have them at 88% implied odds to win the division, which means they should be listed closer to minus 600. That's what the numbers say. I don't feel that confidently about it. But Amags, you are brave enough, no pun intended, to take the division challenger in the Phillies. So what's your case for them?
Yeah, and as you said, numbers-wise, when you look at just the straight-up math on it, the number for the Phillies to win the division isn't as good as I think it should be. But I'm going to make my case here for them from a more handicapping perspective. Look, the Braves had an amazing season last year. Really, they did some awesome stuff, especially in the offensive side of the ball, historic numbers. But when you look at historic numbers, generally you're going to see some kind of regression. Now, even if this team regresses, I do have to agree with Sniper. I think that this is probably the cream of the crop right here in the Dodgers, these two in the NL. But there is a case to be made for the Phillies. They've got not only those 1-2 in the top tier right there of starting pitching in their rotation, but you look at the back end of the bullpen, pretty formidable. You look at the lineup, they're going to grind out at bats. They actually, I think, going to play some pretty good defense. I like Johan Rojas in center field. Last year, 15 defensive runs saved, and I think it was only 50 plus games or so. So just incredible numbers there. I think that they can do enough. They can grind out some games. You're going to get a full season of Bryce Harper. Just definitely some things I like about the Phillies. I think there is a path where they can win the division. So I took them. I said, hey, look, it's a 2-horse race, in my opinion. You're not going to see anything out of those bottom 3 teams. I totally agree with Sniper there. So I am going to take Phillies to win the East. I think that, if you want to roll with me there's a definite possibility that they can overtake the Braves. And then secondly, what I'll say too is similar to Sniper. I'm on the Marlins under on the win total. I'm going to take the under 78.5 wins. And I won't go into everything that he said. I won't reiterate it all, but I will say a couple of numbers here, right? First half for the Marlins last year, 53-39. Second half, they were 31-39. When you look at the Marlins in one-run games last year, they were 33-14, a historic pace in one-run games. You now lose your number 1 starter in Sandy Alcantara. I think it's really difficult for this team to not only achieve what they did, but even just get over this 78.5 number. I too see them in the low 70s. It could be a really tough season though. So if that happens, they trade away some guys, you could be looking at a team that's, very easily cashing the under here.
Yeah, I would say for me, this was the easiest total on the board. Looked at all 30 teams, immediately jumped out to me, and I played it right away. I thought this was the easiest one out of all 30.
Amags, you mentioned the one-run games. I totally forgot. I looked at that too. If you flip the result of every one-run game last year for the Marlins, they would have finished 64-97, a 20-game difference. So yeah, I think you guys found a good one there. All right, we will move on to the NL Central next, but first, a message from our partners.
And the crowd goes crazy.
All right, the NL Central should be actually a competitive division in its own right this year. The preseason projections have the teams separated by as little as 5 wins from top to bottom or as many as 12 wins. The finishing order, though, that's the part that's up for debate. The odds makers expect the St. Louis Cardinals to go from worst to first. After going 71-91 last season, they are now the plus 175 favorite to win the division, with the Cubbies close behind. So, Matt, maybe you don't have to be so miserable this year.
That's true.
How are you feeling about the Cubs?
Very good. And this division is one of the most fun in all of baseball, if not the most fun, because I think you could make a case for a Pirates play here. I don't think the Pirates are going to win the division. That's not my play. But I'm saying I think that there could be a case for them. You could definitely make a case for the Reds. You can definitely make a case for the Brewers. Obviously, the Cardinals are the favorites. I don't buy the Cardinals rotation right now. You've got Sonny Gray getting up into his mid-30s. He already had a hamstring issue this spring. And I do think he's going to have a really good year, but that's about it. I mean, after him, you're down to Miles Mikolas, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson. I don't trust the Cardinals rotation at all. We'll see if the offense can make strides from last year to make up for that. But the Cubs are the much more well-rounded team to me. They're going to have a very good team defense. They brought Cody Bellinger back for a lefty power bat in the middle of the order. Seiya Suzuki was one of the best hitters in baseball in the last 2 months last year. I think he's going to take a leap this year and be that good throughout the season. I've got the Cubs winning the Central. And while we're here, and I'm singing the praises of the Cubs, again, well-rounded team. I think a very good and deep rotation, even if it's not elite. A very good and deep lineup. Even if it's not elite, it's going to be good enough in this division. I like the over on 84.5 wins for them as well, because I think that they're probably ticketed for high 80s, maybe 88 and 74. That's, as a Cubs fan, I know this by heart, but that's the exact record they had in 2003 was 88 and 74 in the regular season, and they made the NLCS that year. This division is balanced enough, competitive enough. I don't want to say bad, but they don't have elite teams. That 88 wins could well win this division, and that's what I have. I've got the Cubs winning the division with 88 wins.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm on the Cubbies too. However, I'm not taking them to win the division. I wish they were priced around plus 300. That's where I would take them. Instead, I'm going to play them from the Manager of the Year angle and take Craig Counsell to win NL Manager of the Year at plus 600. If the Cubs win the division or make the playoffs, he obviously has a strong argument from a narrative standpoint. And we know how he got the most out of his Milwaukee rosters with a 707 and 625 record across 9 years. And he is the favorite to win this. So that's how I'm playing the Cubs. But I'm also interested In sprinkling a little bit on the Brewers at plus 700, this is just based on price for me. The projections are as high as 29% implied odds to make the playoffs, which would put them at plus 240. Pacoda is the lowest projection model I've seen. That is the lowest on them. They have them at 16%, which would price at plus 500. Either way, it's still a 3 to 4% edge on the current market. Their win total also open at 77.5. It's been bet up to 79.5, but 5 projection models have them going over that with an average of 81.5 wins. Once again, they are expected to have the top defense in baseball and one of the better bullpens in 2024. That's where a lot of their success came from last year, but it's more so about the price and just how open the division is and how any team can really make a run for it here. Amags, who do you have?
Yeah, Grace, this is the one division that I think you could get excited about betting. You could take a few different stances. But with Sniper being on the show, I had EC text me last night, say some nice things about the Cubs. So I will agree with Sniper. And it really is more for the play, though, than the jokes. I think the Cubs, when you have Steele at the top of that rotation, you bring back Bellinger, as we already heard, Seiya Suzuki, you bring in Imanaga. There's some pieces that I actually really like about this team. I'm a fan of Kyle Hendricks, so I think he can only help their rotation. So when you look at kind of like the makeup of the team and all in all, I just think they're a better team than the Cardinals. When you look at some of the projection systems, have the Cardinals even sometimes better than 10%, better than the Cubs for playoff chances or winning the division. I just don't think those numbers are right. I think they're much closer. Yeah, the addition of Sonny Gray, but to Sniper's point, I still don't love the rotation there. And I think one injury, you could really be in trouble. So give me the Cubs at plus 200 to win the division. I actually really like this one.
All right. I'm excited for us. I'm excited for Matt to not be miserable. And EC, if you're watching, thanks for the support. All right. Up next, we got NL West. But first, another word from our sponsors.
2 big boys getting ready to play. Big being the operative word here. And here they come.
All right, let's move on to the NL West, where last year the Dodgers became the first team in MLB history to win 100 games in 4 straight seasons. And now they're even better. Hard to make a 100 team better, but they did that. The favorite to win the World Series, obviously, and therefore they are the favorite to win the NL West at minus 600. The Arizona Diamondbacks are the favorite to upset the division at plus 200 now. Matt, how are you playing this one?
Okay, so on the division, absolutely not. On the minus 600, the Dodgers are going to win this division, and I'm pretty sure of it, but I'm not going to lay minus 600 on it because there's always things that could happen. And I do want, if we remember 2018, the Dodgers were coming off almost as good of a season in 2017 as they just had last year, and they started 16-26. Maybe there's a chance we get them sputtering out the gate like that. And if they do, then we could jump on the odds. But I'm just not seeing any reason to lay the minus 600 there, even though I'm pretty sure that they're going to win the division. I do like the Diamondbacks play here on over 84.5 wins. Look, it's about the same ballpark as last year. They won 84 games last season. And for most of the season, they only had 2 reliable starting pitchers, and Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. Now, Brandon Pfaadt had thrown enough his rookie year that he had become somewhat reliable in the playoffs to the point that they were confident enough to start him in the World Series. I think that he's going to have a good sophomore campaign here. Plus, they added Eduardo Rodriguez to the rotation in the offseason. So now you're looking at them jumping from 2 reliable starters to 4. In addition to that, the bullpen was a complete mess until the trade deadline last year. But they cleaned that up before they got to the playoffs, and we saw their setup in the playoffs. They'll have a similar setup in the bullpen this whole season. Offensively, they added power bats and Jock Peterson and Eugenio Suarez. I think that they're a much better team this year than last year. Maybe high 80s in wins or so, but at least getting over that 84.5. While we're here, the Dodgers total is 103.5, a ridiculously high total. I'm coming in under that. Yes, I still think the Dodgers are going to win the division, and they probably win 100 games, but getting all the way to 104 is a tall order for me, especially if you look at their rotation, because it's nothing but question marks right now. I'm sure that Yamamoto is going to be good, but he's never pitched here, and there are adjustments. The baseball is different. There's a pitch clock, which is not in Japan. In Japan, there's only 1 time zone. There's 4 time zones here, so the travel's a thing. They throw about once every 5 days here. There, they throw about once every 7 days. There's a lot of adjustments to be had. And we saw Kodai Senga last season struggle with some of those adjustments. If Yamamoto struggles, there's a lot of other question marks there too, because Tyler Glasnow has never thrown more than 120 innings in a season. You're looking at Bobby Miller coming off his rookie season. Emmett Sheehan's hurt right now. We don't know what's going on with Walker Buehler trying to come back from Tommy John surgery. Clayton Kershaw's out until probably August. They have so many question marks in that rotation. I just can't see him getting to 104 wins.
I am right there with you, Matt. But first, I just want to correct. I think the graphic had the odds wrong for the D-backs. They're 10-1 or 11-1, depending on where you look. So if you do like the D-backs as a long shot, you're getting much better odds. Okay, I'm on the Dodgers under win total as well, Matt. A little trivia for you guys first. This is the highest win total since the 1999 Yankees, who had a preseason win total of 104.5. They went under that, winning 98 games. They did, however, go on to win the World Series. So I think that just goes to show the best team can indeed be the best, but still be overvalued. Prior to this season, there have been 6 preseason win totals of 100 or more games. 5 of those teams went under. The lone exception was the 2021 Dodgers, who won 106 games in the regular season before going on to lose in the NLCS to the Braves. Now, they've come up short the last 3 years, and I think that's important. We see all the money they've spent, $1 billion, all the additions. They don't need that many wins to win this division, right? This is all about the postseason. It's not about the regular season wins or chasing any record at this point. And with that rotation, they can rest guys. They don't need to force them out there because they won't need them to win this division. Just get to 95, whatever. 5 different projection models have them going under this, averaging 98.3 wins. Now, I personally don't bet win totals, but it's kind of fun to be a hater and fade the best team in the majors. So that's what I'm going to do here. Amags, who are you looking at?
So not too much to say about the NL West here. Minus 600 on the Dodgers. I saw Mike McClure in the chat here talking about some really good stuff. And one of those is probably going to be around minus 1,000 by the time you get to May 1st. I don't doubt that. I think that this number can get out of hand very quickly. But one thing that I will say about the division and the Dodgers is that when you try to look at the postseason, and if you're looking at the win total here, right, it's probably going to be the Dodgers, the Braves, you have to say, that are going to get, that first round advantage. I think when you go to bet on these things, you look at them for the playoffs, you look at them for the NLCS and the World Series, just remember that they may be at a little bit more of an advantage health-wise than some of these other teams. So not always, hey, we saw it this year. It doesn't always mean that they're going to win. But I think just think about some of that stuff. Yeah, it's minus 600, but just getting deeper into the season, those little pieces there are going to kind of play into some of your bets. So Dodgers, but no bet for me. And then,
okay.
I'm sorry. I actually run into my win totals here. I totally forgot. We got the Giants. So a win total I do like here. I just think it's probably a tick too low. It's 81.5 for the Giants. I'm going to take the over. And just a couple of things here. I do like the additions they've had of Soler and Chapman. I really like Doval at the back end of that bullpen. I think that he is a stud. And while there's some question marks in the rotation, I do like Logan Webb. I think Hicks might be a nice addition there. So, Bob Melvin, good manager in my opinion. I think he can make these things work. But last piece I want to leave you here with and why I'm going to take this. So last year, when you looked at the Giants, you had them at 79 and 83. And that was with a 30 and 42 second half. Just absolutely crumbled in the second half of the season. And I think that those additions, plus potentially just playing 4, 5, 6 games better in the second half, is going to get us over this win total.
Okay, let's move on to the playoffs. And Amags, I'm on the Giants here, so I'm going to go ahead first and just piggyback off of what you said. To me, it's a lean again because we were talking off camera. It's just a bunch of mediocrity in the middle of this league. But projections give the Giants a 44% implied chance to make the playoffs, which means they should be listed at plus 125. They're listed at plus 190, so you see the edge there. They spent the second most money this offseason, second only to the Dodgers. No one's going to catch their $1 billion, but they spent $250 million, and they could add even more pieces, aka Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery. And that makes sense because I'm not sure why you would go out and sign a guy like Matt Chapman if you don't want to have the elite pitching staff benefiting from him. They signed Jung-Hoo Lee. I've been listening to some of the beat writers out there at spring training. They're calling him the steal of the season. He's known for his contact rate. His contact skills might actually translate better to the MLB than other players from the KBO who are more slugger types. Speaking of slugging, Jorge Soler, we all know the drought the Giants have. They haven't had a 30 home run season since the early 2000s, I think. So that'll be Bucket's new bet this year. But then Logan Webb, I also think, is one of the most undervalued pitchers in the league. And Alex Cobb, love what he's doing with the splitter. So not a lot. The way I would describe the Giants in this pick is the ceiling isn't that high, but they have the highest floor of all the teams fighting for the second and third wild card spot. But again, this is all about the price. I would take them down to plus 125. Amags, who are you looking at?
So I wouldn't wear the D-backs hat and not have some kind of play on them, right? So for me, look, we took them last year. It was plus 140 or 145, somewhere in there. We're going to take the D-backs again to make the playoffs. But I'm going to explain this a little bit with my my last play, the Giants, right? So it's numbers-wise for me, the way I looked at this. We had this at plus 110 to make the playoffs. So I do like the number. But when you look at the win total for the D-backs, it's 84.5. So you're going to need that, 85th, 86th win, right? And you look at the standings last year for the wild card, there was a bunch of teams from 79 wins to 84 wins that were all bunched up, 5 or 6 teams there. And so when I think it comes down to the end, you could have the D-backs make the playoffs, but miss their win total, get to 83 or 84 and still make it, but they're going to miss. And the Giants, I think it's the flip side. I think the Giants, now it is plus 158 on the other side. I get that, right? But I think I'd rather take the minus 110 for the Giants to get that 82nd win and, maybe fade them making the playoffs, because once again, they might get caught in that little, they get 82, 83, they miss the playoffs, but they hit the win total. So that's where I'm looking at for the D-backs. I'm not going to talk too much about their players because I know Sniper touched on it, but one guy I love, you guys know I rode him last year for props. It's Eduardo Rodriguez, and adding him, that lefty, into this rotation, I think is going to make a big difference. You back it up with Gallen, some of the great young guys they have in the lineup. I really like what the D-backs can do this year, so I'm going to take them to make the playoffs and take the plus money there.
Yeah, the wild card race, at least, I want to say it's as competitive as the AL, as we just did the other day, but just the level of quality is a lot. That's the difference here. But so this, I don't know about you guys, picking the playoff wins, this was probably the most difficult one I've had so far. But Matt, what was your process like as you sorted through these teams?
Yeah, so there's tiers, right? I mean, I think we all agree that the regular season, the best teams are the Braves and the Dodgers. And then the NL Central and a lot of the wild card contenders might be all in kind of a clump there in the mid-80s in wins, at least the better teams that will emerge there. But then there's one team that we kind of left out there, and it's the Phillies. And that, they're probably going to be in the low 90s in wins. They're definitely better than they were last year because Bryce Harper was coming off the Tommy John surgery last year and his power was down for a while. Trey Turner had the worst half of his career until he got going in early August. Aaron Nola had an off year. Ranger Suarez was hurt to start the season. They had a lot of things that went wrong for them. And they still, you could argue that they should have won the NLCS. And if they won the NLCS, they might well have won the World Series. That's the direction I'm going this year. I think they're going to be the top wild card, which means they get another wild card team at home in that round, and they're going to stomp them again, maybe not to the extent that they did the Marlins last year, but I still think that they're a good bet to advance. They're much better built for the playoffs than the regular season because their rotation isn't as deep, their bullpen isn't as deep, but that doesn't matter as much in the playoffs. You just play all your studs, and they've got top-level studs. So I like the Phillies to come out of the National League again, just like they did in 2022. And I'm going to go all the way this time and say that they win the World Series. So I believe it was plus 700 last I looked on the NL side, and then something like, plus 700 on the NL side. And then I think plus 1,400 to win the World Series. I'm all over the Phillies in the postseason this year. And again, I think they're going to be much better in the regular season too. Not necessarily win the NL East, but that hadn't been a big deal the last 2 years in dispatching of the Braves. I think they're going to do it again.
All right, so best bets for NLCS. I am going to wait to make a pick here and buy points during the season. Kind of what my strategy is here, because I do like the Braves or Dodgers, but I'm waiting for them to underperform and then go into a really juicy part of the schedule. So some context here. When the Braves made their run in 2021, they started August at 50-1, and they were down to 13-1 by September. They went into August with an 18-8 record the month prior with a really favorable 15-game stretch against Washington, Cincinnati, Miami, and Baltimore. So they went from 5 games back in the division to up 4.5 games. That's kind of what I'm going to target here. Haven't done so yet, but just going to look at the Braves schedule, look at the Dodgers schedule, see if there's a point, where they have really tough competition, where they could underperform, and then look for a really easy part of the schedule. I'm going to wait to play them there. But Amags, you're going chalk. So why do you like the Dodgers here?
So I do like the Dodgers. I think it's the most logical pick to win the NLCS. And like I said, I think they probably get that extra rest at the beginning of the playoffs. So when you're kind of trying to project out, that was a big play for me. But as well, too, you brought in Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I think that's a huge signing. Glasnow, maybe even a bigger signing. And when you're looking at the playoffs, as Sniper alluded to earlier, you're going to play your studs, and to have some of those top tier guys that are going to blow you away or really mix it up and confuse you, you don't always have that much time to adjust and kind of see these guys again in a playoff series, right? You might only see a pitcher one time and he's gone. So I think there's some advantages. One piece I actually really just found interesting about the Dodgers that they plan to play James Outman a ton this year, they've said. I think that could actually, if you give him enough time, you saw some flashes of brilliance from him last year. That could be another really big piece that they have. So just for me, I don't love the number here, but it's close enough to 2-1 that I will take them. And like I said, maybe, further down the line, you could throw a little bit on some of these other teams.
And could I say something in Amag's favor here on the Dodgers? Because on the Dodgers under, I talked about their question marks in the rotation heading into the season. And those are very true. And that's why I don't think they can get to 104 wins. But that's a tall ladder to climb to get to 104 wins. If they get to the postseason with everybody firing on all cylinders, and you're looking at something like whatever order you want to put them, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Kershaw, Buehler, rotation, holy smokes, that would be ridiculous if all those guys are throwing as well as they can, and they could easily cruise to a World Series title. So while I don't love the win total in the regular season, I like the postseason play there by Amags.
That's exactly how I was looking at it too. I'll fade the regular season win totals and take them all the way once I get a better price. All right, well, let's take a look at the recap, guys. We got a lot to hit on here. All right, Snyder is fading the Marlins under 78.5 wins. Again, shop around for that number. Cubs to win the Central at plus 200, also backing their win total going over 84.5 wins. The D-backs taking them also over 84.5 on the win total, fading the Dodgers win total, and then backing the Phillies to win the National League pennant at 7-1 and to win the World Series at 14-1. I am playing the Cubs in a different way, taking Craig Counsell to win NL Manager of the Year at 6-1, sprinkling on the Brewers to win the Central at plus 700, just 1/10 of a unit, and then also fading the Dodgers, very high win total. And then Amags is on the Phillies to win the East at plus 325, the Cubbies to win the Central, the D-backs to make the playoffs at plus 110, also fading the Marlins win total, taking the over on the Giants win total over 81.5, and playing the Dodgers to win the NL pennant at plus 180. All right. Great job, guys. That'll be a wrap for us today. We will be back Wednesday with our futures props, and that's going to be an awesome show. Lots of stuff to pick from there. Remember, our AL futures posted Friday the 8th, so go back and listen to that. And as you already know, Early Edge is here every Monday through Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. So go ahead and listen to that. Turn those notifications on. All right, for Matt Snyder, Amags, and Jake behind the scenes, I'm Grace Remington. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you at the pay window.